And Nancy Cordes was there for all of yesterday's action. Good enough to join me now. And Nancy, again, you were down on the floor, especially for the second half of last night when that list of powerhouse speakers rolled out. So let's start, though, from the back. Bernie Sanders, all eyes on him. Do you think he did enough to bridge the gap that had really threatened to throw this thing into chaos?
I think he gave a full-throated endorsement of Hillary Clinton, which is similar to what he did a couple of weeks ago in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, but it was a little more fraught this time because when he did that, he was in a crowd of Hillary Clinton supporters, and this time it was really a mix, so it wasn't clear how that was going to go over. The interesting thing was that he got this deafening applause, and you see there the people with their Bernie signs handed out by the Clinton campaign. Applause not just from his own supporters, but from Hillary Clinton supporters, too, who have a lot of common cause with him and really admire how far he came in this process. So, you know, he made this argument not just that they need to get behind Hillary Clinton because they share a lot of views, but because if his supporters don't get behind her, that means you're basically inviting a Donald Trump presidency, and that will mean none of their priorities get enacted.
He had attempted something of a truncated portion of that speech earlier yesterday.
Yeah.
He was almost booed off his own stage. So it felt like when he hit that line, Hillary Clinton must become the next president of the United States, you could almost feel the party as a collective exhale a bit.
It turns out that giving that speech earlier in the day was a smart move because it allowed his delegates to get a lot of it out of their system there. And in some cases, leave it there. And I think there were boos. I'm sure there were boos last night when he said you need to get behind Hillary Clinton, but you couldn't hear them because they were completely drowned out by the cheering of Clinton supporters and of some Sanders supporters who said, you know, yeah, we lost fair and square, and it's time to move on.
The idea of the keynote speaker was there was a fluid idea last night because Elizabeth Warren, officially the keynote speaker, but then Bernie Sanders gets moved to where he was moved. And as John Podesta himself said, they were looking to honor Bernie Sanders in his campaign last night. However, all sort of seemed to pale by comparison to the remarks of the First Lady last night, who seemed, if nothing else, by mere presence, to unite this place.
Right. I mean, the First Lady is sort of automatically the keynote, right, wherever she goes. And what was interesting about her speech is we've heard Bernie Sanders basically give the speech he gave before. We've heard Elizabeth Warren give that speech before, but what was so electrifying about hearing Michelle Obama is we haven't seen her out on the campaign trail for several years. We haven't seen her give a speech like this on behalf of Hillary Clinton, and she came at it not so much as a politician, which is, you know, we heard a lot of politicians yesterday, but she came at it as a mother, saying, you know, look, as a mother, when I hear some of the things that Donald Trump is saying, it makes me worry for my children, for other children, and, you know, Hillary Clinton, on the other hand, is a positive role model for those children. And so it was just, you know, it was novel for the people here, and Michelle Obama, you know, whether you were a Hillary person or a Bernie Sanders person, everybody in this hall is a Michelle Obama person, and so she got a really rousing reception.
We also saw remarks from Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey. On the short list for VP, we were told he wove some Maya Angelou into his speech. Always a good idea as a focus group of one. But I know you had a chance to catch up with him today. What do you have to say?
I did. You know, he told me that towards the end of his speech, he couldn't even hear himself because the crowd was going so bananas. And they were. It was interesting. When he started speaking, people were kind of having their own side conversations, and they were waiting for those big speakers you mentioned at 10 o'clock. And suddenly, after a few minutes, they said, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here? I better pay attention. And they were cheering back at him, responding to him. It was like a call and response. And it was really a very rousing speech that left a lot of people here in the crowd wondering if they're going to see him again in 2020 or 24 as a candidate.
A lot of folks did invoke Barack Obama in 2004 in the aftermath last night.
Oh, and by the way, I should tell you, he also described the vice presidential vetting process as a prolonged proctology exam.
And do with that what you will, I suppose. But it does mean
very invasive, in other words.
Day two certainly then has a rather high bar to get over. Leading the way will be the potential first gentleman, Bill Clinton. What do we expect from him?
You know, the former president gives a pretty good speech.
Yes.
And it will be fascinating to hear. He gave very rousing speeches on behalf of Barack Obama, and those were really sort of notable speeches at the past conventions. And so I think it will be very interesting to hear what he has to say. It's not that we haven't seen him out on the campaign trail. He's actually been out on the trail almost as much as his wife.
Yeah.
People don't realize that. He has really kept up a very hectic campaign schedule going into parts of the country where he's still quite popular. So I think it'll be intriguing to hear what he says to this national audience about his wife. And we've also got the roll call vote. Don't forget, that's going to be very interesting as well, because this is where Bernie Sanders voters are actually going to be able to stand up state by state and make their vote known if they came down on his behalf. So you could see a little more
quickly,
of that.
yeah. So what if last night seemed to soothe tensions?
Right.
Will the ceremony of today, when Bernie Sanders will have many delegates cast their votes for him,
right,
will it feel like ceremony or will it feel like conflict?
It will feel like Sanders voters making it clear how far they went.
Yeah.
Whether that devolves into a Clinton versus Sanders animosity, hard to say. But it was very, very important to Bernie Sanders that all of his delegates come here to the convention and cast their votes for him. Usually people would say, I'm turning my delegates over to the person who was victorious. Not Bernie Sanders.
He actually said last night, I look forward to hearing
you call my name. And that's because he wants to show, just how much influence he should have on this party based on how far he came. So he's not giving up that leverage, even though he's already used it to impact the party platform and Hillary Clinton's own agenda.
And one CBSN programming note, we have a new breakout star of ATG after the gavel. Be sure to stay with us all day and night long because you get a little Nancy Cordes on the back end. And let me tell you, after day one, I am in, Nancy.
We're going to be doing some show tunes in harmony.
Sleep is for the weak.
You can come sing with us if you want.
Well, maybe I'll be doing that in the hotel room.
Okay.
I'll be singing along at home, and so will they. Nancy, thanks.
You're welcome.